Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast, number 242, recorded live on April 6th, 2015. I'm your host and summer blockbuster, Todd Klindt. Before we go any further, have to give a shout out to the folks at Rackspace. You want to point your browser, whichever browser you like, whatever way you lean on the whole browser thing. Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Slipneer, Netscape, Mosaic, Lynx, any of those, whatever your browser of choice. Point that little devil at www.sharepoint.rackspace.com to find out about all the fun things we're doing at Rackspace around SharePoint. And we got a bunch of cool stuff out there. We do dedicated SharePoint for just you and the folks at your company. We do multi-tenant SharePoint, so you just want a little sliver of SharePoint, just want to kind of stick your toe in a little bit. We got some of that. We got it all. We'll take care of you at sharepoint.rackspace.com. Okay, production notes. Much like last week, production notes are going to be kind of heavy this week. This is a good deal. So last week was the very first time that the guys at CMS Wire, actually the woman at CMS Wire, Noreen, did a transcript of my podcast, and she kind of pulled out some of the Windows 10 stuff. So I think it's good. So first off, a shout out to Noreen. When the folks at CMS Wire contacted me and offered to do this, I thought they were mad and like crazy, not angry, but maybe both. Because number one, I can't imagine being forced to sit through the sound of my voice every week. Now, I understand that you guys are doing that right now, but they're anyway, they're doing it voluntarily. But anyway, she went out and she transcribed podcast 241, and I've added that to the link now for podcast 241. So if you go to www.toddklindt.com/podcast 241, that will take you to the blog post on that. It's got links to the audio version, the video version, the YouTube version, the transcript, all the links I talk about, all there in one blog post. And so she took that. She was she had some computer issues last week. Karma was getting to her for agreeing to do this, but they're doing so. The folks at CMS Wire are doing a transcript of selected pieces of my podcast every week and putting them up on CMS Wire, so you can get the first one out there at cmswire.com. And again, so part of my motivation for this was I talked about this with various people, the transcription thing, for a while now. And I think CJ and AC over at the Microsoft Cloud Show, I think they have a transcription thing. And I was always kind of curious about it, but it seemed like a lot of work and potentially money, and I didn't think that anybody would actually use it. And then, like I told the story last week, I was having lunch with a buddy of mine, Matt, and he was telling me that I should do it. I'm like, this makes no sense. Why would this be handy? And he's like, well, if you ever saw a link somewhere and went to a page for a story that you wanted to hear about, and all it was an embedded video, and all you wanted was the text, and you just cursed at him, I'm like, oh yes, that happens all the that makes perfect sense. So then the CMS Wire folks got a hold of me a month or so ago and thought that there was some synergy to be had here. And so they're going to be doing this. So look for that link inside of every blog post, hopefully, for these podcasts as we do that. So shout out to Noreen. And it's funny because she's going to be transcribing this bit where I talk about her transcribing this bit. It's kind of like an Inception thing, sort of. I'm spinning dice right now on my table, my desk. So that's cool, but that's a great feature. And we're going to be working on that. We're going to try to get the links put in there, maybe some of the time signatures, things like that. But if you have comments about that, things that you'd like to see in the transcription or whatever, you can leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave it in the YouTube video. I read those, and I respond to most of them. Or you can go to www.toddklindt.com and then /podcast 242 for 242, 241 for 241, all that kind of stuff, and leave a comment there, and I will see that. But I will pass those on to her, and I think this has got some potential. Another thing that I would like some advice on, some suggestions from you guys, is I'm thinking about changing the time. So right now I'm doing this thing live. There's about 20 people in the chat room here, and it is 8:30 p.m. Central Time Zone right now. And I've been doing it at this time zone for this time slot for 5 years now, something like that. I think we're 6 years into this mess. I think I've been doing it for 5 years at this time. And I used to do it during the day, but it wasn't like sanctioned by my employer, and they kept wanting me to work during the day. But anyway, my employer now is a little more understanding, a little more supportive of that. And I've had some requests from like people in Europe that want to get in the chat room. I've wanted to bring European guests in, but like right now in Europe, it's like 2:30 in the morning, which is kind of not so great for those guys. So I've been thinking about cranking it back. Plus some of you guys, you folks in the chat room right now, there's a basketball game on. It's family time. I feel bad. So I'm thinking about changing the time a little bit. And I would like to have your suggestions. I've got a couple times in mind, but I would like to hear when you guys would like to see this recorded live. And so if you, the benefit to you guys is if I do it at a time that works live for you, then you can jump in the chat room like a bunch of these yokels here and try to get me to laugh and, you know, shoot milk on my nose and all that kind of stuff and interact with me while I'm recording it. So that's, and I was corrected. You're not yokels, you're hooligans. They are, that is the official podcast hooligans. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. So if you have a opinion on that, on what time I should do it, go ahead and leave me a comment. Again, you can leave a comment on the YouTube video, on the blog post. You can hit me up at Twitter at Todd Klindt. I'm looking at Twitter right now. You can email me, todd.klindt@rackspace.com, and let me know. So Brian LaLancette, see if you're in the chat room, I can make you famous. Brian LaLancette of the Montreal LaLancettes says, you know, if they're not willing to get up at 2:30 in the morning, how committed should they be? The funny thing about that, Brian, is there is a European that I've been thinking about having come on as a guest, and he did. He did offer to do it at 2:30 in the morning. His comment was, "I won't be as handsome as I normally am, but I'll do it." I'm like, man, I can't ask you to do that. So he was committed. It was me that was the weak link. He really wanted to do it. So there must not be much going on in Europe at 2:30 in the morning that he would be willing to do this. But so in the chat room, Daniel Glenn suggested doing one during the day and the next during the night. I've thought about that. But one of the things is I've been, you know, over the past few years looking at other podcasters that I listen to and listening to guys that talk about podcasts. Consistency is one of the things that's really important, and I think having it bounce back and forth might be tough. It would also be tough for me to schedule too, because then there would be 2 time slots. I could never do anything. Mark Christman is saying that Wednesday at noon Eastern is out because that's Laura Rogers' SharePoint Power Hour, so that's true. I wouldn't want to step on that. Jack Frew is saying maybe a lunch on the East Coast and noon East Coast. That ends up being 9 Pacific, 11 a.m. my time, maybe. So anyway, these are all good ideas, and I would love to hear from you guys. So let me know. Like I said, I've kind of got some ideas. I've talked to some folks. I've got some ideas when I might want to do it, but I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So please let me know on that. Another request that I had, I was on Twitter last week, dispensing wisdom and good cheer as I always do, and was talking to somebody about the podcast and things like that. He had a suggestion for me as well, and this is a really good idea. I thought he suggested that I make an audio version of this, you know, for people to listen to while they're driving to work in their car, things like that. And I said, if I got a deal for you, I will do one, an audio one immediately, and then I will immediately publish them all the way back to the very first one. So I wanted to bring up, because I know I look at the numbers, and some people always watch it on YouTube, and some people always do the downloads and all that kind of stuff. You can get this mess in a variety of forms. You can get it as an MP3 file, and you can discover that out at iTunes. It's shows up in there. It does not show up in the Windows Phone podcast app, unfortunately. Boo. But you can, so that's out there. Every time I do one of these, I do a blog post, and that blog post has a link to the audio file and the RSS feed for the audio file. There's a video file that you can download and an RSS feed for that. I publish it on YouTube. That does a couple of things. Number one, I'm streaming live on YouTube right now, but also there's just a bunch of things that can consume YouTube easily, so I've got it on YouTube. There's a couple other places that I need to get it on that I just haven't yet because I'm lazy. But there's just a bunch of different places to consume this. So my idea is to have it everywhere that you want to be able to see it. That's kind of my goal. So I appreciate the suggestion about the MP3 version. It's a good one. It's a solid one. I think thousands of people will agree with you. So that's good. But one thing I did mention last week is as I watch other podcasts, and I do consume a lot of podcasts myself, curious if you guys would like to see any changes to my ID3 tag, like the artist name or the title or anything, because like if I just put the number in there, kind of got some wordy stuff. So let me know. I'm willing to make some changes on that too, because I noticed some other podcasters do it differently, and they might do it better. I don't. So anyway, love to hear your suggestions. I've added a whole bunch of things. I made a lot of changes to this podcast over the years because of suggestions from people like you. So let me know what you think, and I'm happy to do that. So one of the things that people have suggested over the years is less me. Bring guests in. But I know what they meant. They meant less me talking, more of the people talking. So I've had some guests over the years. I've had Shane on any number of times. So he was technically my first guest. Then I had Bill Baer from the SharePoint team on a month or so ago. And a couple of weeks ago, I had Mark Manasseh of Mark Manasseh fame on. That went pretty well. And I'm happy to announce that I'm going to have another guest on next week. So it'll be April 13th, 2015. And that guest will be, and I would do a drum roll, but it would be obnoxious at the mic, Jeff Hicks of PowerShell fame. So Jeff is a PowerShell MVP, has been one forever. He's written for IT Pro magazine. He's done all kinds of stuff. And his blog, let me paste this into the chat room right now. His blog is at jdhitsolutions.com and probably jdhitsolutions.com. Oh, my God. But Jeff and I have been friends for a number of years, and we always end up at the same conferences, TechNet and all that kind of stuff. He's helped me with some PowerShell stuff over the year. He's way smarter than I am, and he was gracious enough to agree to be on this thing next week. So we're going to be talking about a couple of PowerShell things. I could go on for weeks about PowerShell, but he and I were going to talk a little bit about desired state configuration, DSC, which is something that popped up in PowerShell 4, which is kind of a cool thing. Not exactly SharePoint specific, but good stuff. I mean, there's overlap. So we'll talk about DSC a little bit, and then the other thing that he and I are going to talk about is kind of one of my things down the road here on the podcast tonight about writing PowerShell functions and kind of taking that next level. So next week, April 13th, Jeff Hicks will be on here. You can follow him on Twitter, and I can't believe I don't have his Twitter handle here for me. And yeah, folks in the chat room are being very understanding about me mispronouncing Jeff's blog, by the way. Lovely people, salt of the earth. Goodness gracious. But Jeff Hicks, and you can follow him on Twitter at Jeff Hicks or J.E. Hicks, at Jeff Hicks, JEFFHICKS, and he's a very helpful guy, knows tons about PowerShell, way smarter than me, way smarter than me. So looking forward to talking to him next week. All right, I think we're done with production notes. Outstanding. Okay, so topics. So I got a bunch of things. So the first one, and these are just scattered all over. I may not do all these. We'll see. Here in a few weeks, in a month, oh my God, a month from today, the Microsoft Ignite conference is going to be going on in Chicago. There's been a ton of things going on there. But one of the things that you never want to miss when you go to one of these big events is the AvePoint Red Party. And they have it every year, and it's always crazy over the top. Those folks have never thrown a reasonable party in their life. There was one that I was at. I mean, a lot of them blur together, and a lot of them have included things I just can't speak about publicly. But one of them had a fire dancer, like a woman who just she had things that were on fire, like batons and rings and all kinds of stuff. And I thought it was going to be dumb, and then I saw it, and it was not dumb. But anyway, they're doing it again. And it's going to be at Ignite, and I forgot to write what night it's going to be. So it's going to be on Tuesday, May 5th, and it's going to be at the Chicago Union Station. Now, so this is awesome. So Jeff Jones in the chat room is like, this sounds amazing. How does one get into such a thing? And Jeff says, I heard they were sold out. This is horrible. Have I got good news for you guys. You've got two ways to get in. So I've got a blog post now that they posted about how to get in, and they've got some stuff you can do, some schmutz, and you can blog this and register here and post that and earn points and do things and wear a cup on your head and all kinds of stuff. That is one way to get in, and that is fine. That's a good way to do it. The other way to get in I'll get you in. So here's the deal. I got a ticket to the Red Party. And I'm like, sweet, I'm keeping this for me. Screw the rest of you guys. And then I got another ticket to the Red Party. I'm like, all right, well, maybe I will, maybe I'll hook somebody up with a ticket to the Red Party. So here's what I'm going to do. And this is completely random, and I'm terrible at all these contests, but if you want a ticket from me to the AvePoint Red Party at Ignite, here's what you got to do to be in the running. You got to do one of a couple of things. I'm looking for some promotion. I'm looking for help from you guys. So you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, a little quid pro quo and all that kind of stuff. So here's one of the ways that you can get entered into winning my red ticket. You can go out to iTunes, and my podcast is in iTunes. Search for me, it shows up. Leave a review. Now, when you do this, you can't just rate it. You got to put text. You got to put something like, this guy is less dumb than he was a year ago. Something. Leave me a review in iTunes. I've got a screenshot of what the reviews were yesterday, so I know which ones were already there. So any done after today, and we'll put this out. We'll put this out for 2 weeks. So we'll say that before. That's too bad. Maybe we'll do it the 27th. I'm not sure. So the thing is, I'm not going to be here on the 20th to do the podcast. I want to give you guys some time. So we'll say maybe the 20th or 27th. I don't know. Do it soon. Do it soon. Somebody, Jason Himmelstein in the chat room, suggested streaking with my URL painted on their back. Absolutely, that counts. Pictures of you streaking the quad with my URL. Absolutely, that works. That counts as 2. So anyway, a review in iTunes with some text, with some stuff on it. The other thing you can do, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that is youtube.com/Todd Klindt Netcast. Do all that. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, be a subscriber, and then leave a comment in one of the podcasts. So 242, 243, 241, whatever. Leave a comment and say something about that you want this ticket to the Red Party so that I know that you are. The other thing is, if you leave your iTunes comment or you leave your YouTube comment, make sure that your name is something that I can contact you, or there's some way for me to get back to you if I choose that. But anyway, I'm going to take all these people. So all the people that leave iTunes comments, and all the people that leave YouTube comments, and all the people who send me pictures of them streaking across the quad with my URL across their back. I'm going to put all their names into something and then randomly pick a number, and that's who I'll give that ticket to. So that will give you this ticket to the Red Party Tuesday night, April 5th. But also in the notes for all this, it's going to have the other way you can get it if you don't win this one. So that's the Red Party. Okay, so a bunch of stuff that's come up in the last week. I'm going to skip that. I probably should have done that one last week. So this came out a couple of days ago, and this was a blog post from Microsoft, so you know that it's good. And they're talking about AppFabric. And they're talking about how AppFabric is going away. And that is sad because our friend SharePoint 2013, it uses AppFabric, and it uses some of the workflow stuff. And so I read this blog post about how AppFabric 1.1 is going to be going away, and I thought, oh crud, I wonder what that means for SharePoint. And they've got, this blog post is not about SharePoint, it's about AppFabric. And they give some other things, if you're a developer and you're using AppFabric, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what does this mean for SharePoint? So I went to my man, Bill Bear, friend of the show, friend of mine. We go way back. I rode in the back seat of his Mustang. I was very uncomfortable. So we tight. That's what I'm getting at. So I said, hey, Bill, I'm going on tonight, and I would like to know what the stance is because people are going to talk about this. This is kind of a big deal. And his response to me, and I quote, "We're working on a plan for a plan to help you plan your plans." Thanks, Bill. He also added, actually, it doesn't change anything from a supportability standpoint with SharePoint 2013. So there we go. So they're working on a plan to make a plan so that we can plan our plans. You gotta love those guys. But kind of the big news is, while this seems scary, Bill says we're gonna be good to go. SharePoint 2013 is solid, so we don't need to freak out about that. So that was good news to hear. Always good to get a good bit of wisdom from Mr. Bear. Another thing, and I'm seeing some links here about it, but something I noticed like a month ago. Some of my coworkers like, dude, I was trying to download the September 2014 CU, and I think they took it away. They think they pulled it. I'm like, man, I know, I track this stuff. If they had pulled that CU, I'd know. He's like, yeah, I go to the link on your page, and it's not there. And I'm like, huh. So I go to the link on my page, toddklindt.com/SP2013 builds. I click the link for the download. I get a big 404 page. Like, man, I test these, and I have Lori test them after I test them to make sure that it's not just me. And they all worked. And then I started looking around. So what ended up happening is Microsoft is moving the patches. So all of the downloads that used to work that broke were all http support.microsoft.com/blah blah download ASPX your mama whatever. What they did is they moved them all to http support2.microsoft.com/blah blah download ASPX your mama. So I went through and I fixed them all. This was like a month ago. Like November was broken and September was broken, and I fixed them. And then I checked like the previous 6 months and everything's good. So I got back onto my team and I'm like, hey, it's all good. Commence downloading patches. Go. And then last week, one of my guys is like, yeah, we need this specific patch because they're adding a machine to a farm and it's at this level. And the July patch is missing. I'm like, it can't be. It was there 2 weeks ago. Sure enough, I click it, it's dead. Put a 2 in the URL and it works. So a couple of things about this. Number one, Microsoft, I don't know why you got to do this to me. I don't know why you got to make a liar out of me. I thought we were friends, thought we had this worked out. Anywho, so if you go to toddklindt.com/SP2013 builds and you click a download link and it doesn't work and you get the 404, do 3 things. Number one, face west, well, west from you, face Seattle and swear. The second thing is try changing the URL from support to support2, and you're going to have to copy it out because it does a redirect. But try support2 and see if that works. And then when that works, send me a tweet, leave me a whatever, and let me know when I will change the pages, because it looks like they're going through and slowly moving them over. So I'm sure that there's going to be more broken ones to look forward to. So if it looks like it's gone, it's probably not gone. It's just the URL has changed. And I think the way that I found them the first time was I went to the KB article and then clicked the download link from there, and their download link was updated, but obviously mine was not. So that's another way to do it. So don't like them moving those URLs. I don't know why they do that to me, but that's and Brian Lelland. So it's like Brian Lelland said, the guy that wrote the AutoSP installer, is like, uh-oh, gotta go. Here's little Scooby-Doo feet as he runs off. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's another one. Oh boy, this is a fun thing, and you're all going to be disappointed in me because I haven't actually done this yet. But last week, Microsoft released the Surface 3, not to be confused with the Surface Pro 3. So the Surface 3 is the successor to my beloved Surface RT over there, and the Surface 2, which were RT-based devices, but they were super tiny and cheap and long battery life and all that. They were kind of like the little brother to, the Surface Pro devices. When the Surface Pro 3 came out, there was no analogous little brother. RT was dead, so there was none of those. And so we didn't know what they were going to do. Last week they told us what they're going to do. The Surface 3. So the Surface 3 is a 10.8-inch device, as opposed to the Surface Pro 3, which is like 12 inches or whatever. 10.8-inch device. It's 4x3, so it's kind of square-ish. It's, again, since Windows RT is dead, it runs full Windows 8.1. It's got an Atom CPU, and I know that Atom CPUs get a bad name. People make fun of them. But all my little tablets, and I've got about 14 of them right here, they keep me company during the day. I get lonely working from home. I have my tablets to keep me company. They all have Atom processors, not powerhouses, but good. This Atom processor that's in the Surface 3 is a next-gen one, so it's a later one. It's the Cherry Tree or whatever the new chipset is. But it's a faster, better Atom CPU. And this sounds like kind of a duh thing, but even though it's using an Atom CPU, it is faster than the Surface Pro or Surface 2, and it is faster than the Surface RT. I get that it should be, but so it's not a dog. It's not a bad machine. They come in a variety of storages: 64 gig, 128 gig, things like that. They have the digitizer. They have the pen support, like the Surface Pros do. They do not come with the pen. There was much gnashing of teeth on the internet about that. They do not come with the digitizer pen. And for me, I don't mind for a couple reasons. Number one, I got a pen with my Surface Pro 2, so I've got a pen. I don't necessarily want to pay for another pen. The other thing is I never use it. So I would be frustrated if I was a person buying this device and had to pay for a pen that I would never use and then would eventually lose and all that. But they're out there. The other interesting thing is they are going to have 2 models that have LTE support. So you'll be able to sign them up with T-Mobile and Verizon, I think, are the first ones, and just have on-demand internet like the iPads and that kind of stuff have. So very nice devices. A little too expensive for my blood right now. I think the bottom ones are going for like $500, something like that. But good device if you don't want to shell out the money for the full Surface Pro, but you still want something that's going to work on airplanes and have good battery life and all that. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Windows tablets, so I like all that. So if you end up getting a Surface 3, I would love to hear about it. Send me a tweet, do whatever. I put a link in the chat room and I'll put it in the notes. Paul Thurrott's got a good article. It's kind of got his first impressions about the size and all that. So one cool thing is the previous type covers, the keyboard covers will work with the Surface 3. They're the wrong size, so they don't cover the screen right, but you can plug them in and they work. So if you've got a bunch of those, you can kind of slowly move over. It has a mini display port like the Surface Pro 2 and the Surface Pro and the Surface Pro 3, so all of those adapters will work. It does not support multiple mini display port monitors, though. I don't know if anybody that actually does that, but if you were, you can't do it with this device. You only get one. So good little device. I'm glad that it's there. So then this reminds me of another thing. Jason and I in the chat room have been talking about Windows 10 and all that. And I've been doing Windows 10 on a bunch of devices. I've got Windows 10 and they've had a couple of updates, and there's one update coming out now, I think 10,051. But we were talking about updating things, and I want to show you guys. I talked about this a while back. Actually, let's do it like this. I bought a device from China, a little HDMI stick computer that runs full Windows, and I have since been using it for a bunch of stuff, and I've been putting Windows 10 on it. So it had Windows 10 build 10,041 on it, I believe, and that was all working pretty well. And then 10,049 came out, and so I decided I would go ahead and put that on. And I put Windows 10 and various versions on a bunch of different devices. And this right here, the screen behind me, that's Wormy. That's my little drive. He came with a virus, a worm, pre-installed. It was very nice of him. But I've been trying to get him to upgrade to 10,049. He's been stuck at 30% for about 4 days now. I did this Friday morning, I think is when I kicked this off the last time. So I know some people get impatient during patching, and I hate to be that guy that just gives up and shuts the machine down. I think at 4 days, though, I think I'd give up. Now, I say this, this is the second time I have run poor Wormy through this exercise. But I can tell you that this is kind of scary. So I've got a beta. Let me set the stage for you here. I've got a beta OS, and I'm trying to update it to another beta OS. And not only are they beta OSs, but I'm in the fast ring, so I'm trying to update it to the most cutting-edge, spur-of-the-moment beta OS. That's what's going on over here. And it is failing spectacularly. So what's going to happen with this? Well, like I said, I've done this more than once. If I kill the box, if I shut it off now, when I power it back up, the installer will realize that it failed, and it will roll back to the previous version of the beta. So right now it's trying to install 10,049. When I shut it off and turn the stick back on, it'll come up and it'll go, hey, something went horribly awry. Sorry about that. Most apologies. And it will roll back to 1041 and everything will be fine. I've done it twice now. So that's pretty cool. The installer for Windows 10 constantly amazes me. The fact that you can update from beta to beta, which we've never been able to do before. Then we're going to be able to update from beta to RTM, which we've never been able to do before. And then we're able to do all this with Windows Update. This is just crazy. Those guys, I feel like at this point they're just showing off. Windows Update, sure, it's got its problems and all that, but I just kind of feel like they're showing off. So I'm going to go ahead and kill this. I said I'm going to kill it, and then we'll let it show up in the background and see if it does the whole rebuild thing. So I see some of you. Oh boy, we're going to get off on a tangent here. So some of you in the chat room are talking about these little HDMI sticks. A couple of you are super excited about it. A couple of you are like, "That's the dumbest thing ever. Why would you ever buy one of those?" Let me turn it back on here. Except I didn't plug the power back in. Sorry about that. They do require power. Get in there. Stop fighting me. Stand up like a man and fight. There we go. Okay, so that's powering back up. Oh, my monitor's going to go crazy. Okay, so it's booting up. You can watch that over my shoulder. For those of you on the audio only, imagine fancy things going over my shoulder. So a couple folks in the chat room are like, "I want one of these things. They're awesome." Some people are like, "The dumbest thing ever." So all I can tell you is what I use it for. Number one, of course, I'm addicted to gadgets, and I just can't. I can't say no. So there's that. It's got that going for it. The other thing is that I use it when I travel. So it's a full-fledged Windows box. It's it's just that big. It's got an SD card. It's got a couple of USB ports on it. It's got an HDMI port. So when I travel, I don't ever watch hotel TV. I just plug this into the HDMI port on the hotel TV, and that's how I watch videos. I've got SD cards on it. It's got a Netflix client. I can tether it through my phone. All that kind of stuff. All the real networks these days, HBO and Stars and Showtime and USA and all those guys, you can watch stuff on demand through their webpage. So I use Wormy over there, and then I've got this little keyboard mouse combination thing. It's a gyroscopic mouse, so it works like a mouse. It's got a full keyboard on it. It's even got a learning remote, so I can teach it the TV volume up, volume down, input, all that kind of stuff. And this is how I record it or control it. So works like a champ, takes up no space, powers off of a micro USB power that I've got 1,000 of because I use that to charge my phone and all that. Yeah, so Brian Laland said, he's saying just any HDMI TV or monitor, you can make it a smart TV with Windows and all that. You can't tell right there, but it is saying restoring your previous version of Windows, so it's bringing it all back. So Jack in the chat room, they're talking about this. Jack mentions, wouldn't something like an Amazon Fire Stick be better for that use case? Well, that's interesting. So this little box here that I bought it from some little Chinese vendor, some small thing. It wasn't like Amazon or anything like that. It was like $110, something like that. Runs full Windows. So all the fun and responsibility that comes from that. I also have an Amazon Fire TV Stick, like Jack mentioned. So the Fire TV Stick, which I was actually going to talk about tonight anyway, is $40. And it's running the Amazon Fire OS, which is really, as we all know, Android, but it's got all the apps. And so it's got apps for things like like Netflix and all that kind of stuff. The great thing about this Windows stick is that anything that runs on Windows will run on it. Whereas the Fire TV Stick, there has to be an app for it, and that app has to work. So one of the things that I came across earlier was there's an HBO Go app on the Fire Stick, and I use HBO Go all the time, but the one on the Fire Stick didn't support DirecTV. So if I was trying to watch something on my tablet and using a browser, I could, because that one did, but the one on the Amazon Fire TV Stick did not support DirecTV. So you've got all the app things. You've got that walled garden thing. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but the Amazon Fire TV Stick is $40, so that's tough to go wrong with. But the reason that I was going to mention it was because it recently got an update, and so it's updated to version 54, something, I forget. But from the start, Amazon has said that the Fire TV Stick supported Miracast, and Miracast is wireless display. So think of it as like an HDMI cable, except no cable. Wireless HDMI is the best way to explain that. So Windows Phone supports that. Windows 8.1 and up supports that. I use that all over. When the Fire TV Stick came out, it said it supported it, but it didn't support it for Windows. Worked with Android, but it didn't work for Windows. Starting with this version 54 update, now it works for Windows. So that was kind of cool. So I was going to tell you, if you're thinking about getting any kind of a Miracast receiver, for $40 you can get this, and it does all the other stuff. And if you haven't heard of Sling TV yet, if you sign up for Sling TV, you can get the Fire TV Stick for free. So let me throw in the chat room. There's a link to the Fire TV Stick in there. Sling TV is the thing that we've all been complaining about for 10 years that didn't exist, was the ability to pay like $15-20 a month and get a bunch of cable TV stations but not have cable. So HBO and so the big thing about Sling TV is they've got ESPN and a bunch of the ESPN stations, and Disney and a bunch of the Disney stations and all that. So if you sign up for Sling TV, one of the things you can consume that on is a Fire TV Stick or a Roku box or whatever, but you can get a free Fire TV Stick. So the little HDMI boxes, so the one that I got, again, it was just some knockoff Chinese brand that's been out for 8 months. It has the same description as all of the Intel ones that were announced at CES. So I think it's going to be the same. It's the Atom 3735F processor, 2 gig of RAM. Mine's got 32 gig of storage. Great fun little box, except when it's doing that. Let me go back to my slides here. You heard me, I said that. My switch box is mad now, I can't switch. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. So good stuff there. So one final thing, maybe two final things. Yeah. This just came out today, and I can't believe that this is a cool. I don't know. I had to talk about this. So Microsoft has this thing that they released today called the Work Play Bundle. And the Work Play Bundle is a one thing that you buy. You pay $150 for it. I think that's the price. God, that can't be right. You pay $150 for this Work Play Bundle. And let me just double check. Oh, that's the wrong link. That's the right link. Buffering. Restoring my previous version of Windows. Anyway, so it's we'll go with $150. So for $150, you get a 1 year. It is $150. God, you get a 1 year subscription to all of these following things: 1 year of Office 365 Home, which is all of the Office 365 apps and SharePoint Online and all that, and the 5 user dealio. You get Skype Unlimited World and Skype Wi-Fi. Honestly, I've never gotten that to work, but I'm just an idiot. But Skype Unlimited World's pretty cool. Call everybody all over the world for free. Xbox Live Gold. So that's the thing that you need to get all of the Xbox Live services. Xbox Music Pass for a year. That's $100 alone. All of that for $199 or $149, excuse me. And if you already have any of those, like I've already got Xbox Music Pass, I've already got Xbox Live, I've got some time left on Skype. If you have any of these things, when you buy this $150 bundle, it just adds 12 months on. So you're not losing anything. It'll burn out whatever you've got left and then add 12 months on top of it. So $149. They had this for a few months before, and you could only buy it at the Microsoft Store. Now you can only buy it online. So I put a link in the chat room. Of course, it'll be in the show notes and all that. But $149, add to cart, and you're done. And it just, I can't even believe it. So it's like $400 and some if you bought it all. And I mean, this is all stuff that I use. I already use Skype. I already use Xbox. I already use Xbox Music Pass. I use 365. So this is amazing. Very excited about that. Thought you guys might... Oh, yeah. So Daniel Glenn does bring up a good point. Office 365 Home does not include SharePoint. It includes OneDrive for pleasure as storage, and then I think the Outlook.com email, because it's not one of the business ones. But I guess the thing that I was trying to say is that it's the step up from Office 365 Personal. So Home is kind of the next one. It's for everybody in your home, but it comes with all the Office clients, Word, Excel, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. I like that stuff. All right, final thing that I wanted to talk about. I blogged this today, so I know you guys have already read this. You're like, oh, blog, I've already read that. a bunch of folks in the PowerShell community, including next week's guest, Jeff Hicks, did a thing last week that was pretty cool, and they called it PS Blog Week. And what they did was 6 PowerShell bloggers took a topic, and in this case that was writing PowerShell functions, and they each wrote a blog on that, and it was like a beginning to end kind of thing. So the first one was like, here's how you make them, and then the next one was like, here's how you add whatever, and they published a blog post every day for 6 days on this topic. And then when you got done with one guy's blog post, the next day there was a link to the next guy's blog post, and so on and so forth, including June. June's not a guy, but it was a bunch of really great PowerShell blog posts. So you can go to toddklindt.com/psblogweek, and there's my blog post on it, and then a link to all 6 of those. And this really kind of struck home for me, because this is something, and I talk about in the blog post, that I've been trying to work hard on lately. And that is not just writing little PowerShell one-liners to fix a thing, and then having to be the guy to run that, or stringing a bunch of PowerShell one-liners together inside of a PS1 file, and then running it, and hoping to heaven that it works. One of the things that I've been doing lately is trying to wrap my PowerShell logic into functions. And I've got this big PSM1 file, this module that I add all my stuff to. So every time somebody at work asks me to do something, I need a PowerShell function or a PowerShell script that does blah. I'm like, cool, I can do that. Reload my module because it's in there now. And I've been working on functions. But once you start dealing with functions, then you've got all kinds of things like input validation and error correction and support for what if and confirm and all this stuff. And the framework's all written for you. You don't have to write all this by hand. And that's what all these blog posts, these 6 blog posts, start at the beginning and walk you through all of those different things, adding help, things like that. So one of the things that Don Jones, who is a big PowerShell celebrity, one of the things that he talks about is if you're using PowerShell, you should strive to be the tool maker, not the tool user. So your goal should be that when somebody comes to you and they say, hey, we need something done, can PowerShell do it? Your goal should be to write some PowerShell, package it up, good error checking, good function, and then push that off and make it usable so somebody else can use it. Be the tool maker, not the tool user. And I think that's kind of the next step in my PowerShell thing. So the timing was perfect. I was writing some functions now. I used to have to, go out to Bing and try to find all these stuff. Now I've got them all in one list there. So thanks to those guys, and Jeff's going to talk about a bunch of that next week. Okay, so I think that's it. I had one other thing I was going to talk about, the new vice president of SharePoint at Microsoft, but honestly, that's not a very exciting thing. So we will move on to the self-promotion part of the show. Home stretch, folks. We're almost there. I know we're 42 minutes now, but we're getting close. In 2 weeks, I will not be doing this podcast. I'll be in London, England, at the SharePoint Evolution Conference. I'm doing 2 sessions on Wednesday on SharePoint upgrading from SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint 2013. Do not miss that. Fun, frivolity. Everybody will love it. So I don't know. So Lori's asking if Shane will be all alone. I haven't actually talked to Shane yet, so I don't know. He may bring Jonathan on. He may bring Grant on. I have no idea, but I have to talk to him about that. See if he can do that. But I will be there. I believe Rackspace is going to have a booth at SharePoint, the SharePoint Evolution Conference. So I'm going to be there. If you're at the Evolution Conference, please come find me. Find me at my session. Find me at the booth. Whatever. Introduce yourself. Shake my hand. I would love to meet you. I would love to meet you. So come find me. That's SharePointEvolutionConference.com, and that's April 20th through the 22nd. Then, like 2 weeks after that, is the Microsoft Ignite conference, and that's at ignite.microsoft.com. That is May 4th through the 8th. I am doing 2 sessions there as well. On May 3rd, which I understand is before May 4th, May 3rd, Laura Rogers and I, she's in the chat room right now, we're doing an all-day session on OneDrive for Business. And this is for IT pros, and it is soup to nuts, all you need to know about OneDrive for Business, why you would use it, how you would set it up, how you migrate your users to it, how they should use it, everything you need to know, the answer to every question you have about OneDrive for Business. So come to that, and that one's an extra charge. That's $500, but it's 8 hours of OneDrive for Business. It's 8 hours with Laura and I. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait. And this is one of those things where I've done this talk. I did like a 75-minute version of this talk at Tech Ed last year, and it was kind of cool, and then I kind of forgot about it, and now I'm digging back into it, and the improvements they've made in the last 9 months are amazing. I love it. So expect to hear me talking about more of that stuff in the future and blogging about it, because it's good, cool stuff. And IT pros have been lamenting recently about their jobs going away and all that kind of stuff. The job's just changing, as it has been for the past, however many years, 20 years, and there's still lots of really cool stuff to do. And again, Rackspace is going to have a booth at Ignite, so come find me, introduce yourself. Also, I'm going to be working at the PowerShell booth with Ed Wilson, the Hey Scripting guy, and some of those other PowerShell guys. I don't know the times yet. I got to work on the schedule with those guys, but Ed blogged that at the Hey Scripting Guy blog, so looking forward to that. And then I'm going to take a couple of months off, recharge, things like that. But August 11th, I will be speaking at the Mississippi PowerShell User Group, or the MSP SUG. I'm terrible at this. I'm used to SPUGs, and this is the other way around. But this is the Mississippi PowerShell User Group. You can go to mspsug.com and find out all about those guys. This will be Tuesday night, August 11th at 8:30 Central. And I'm going to be doing it through the internet, through the wonder of the tubes. I'm going to be doing that and presenting for those guys. We haven't decided yet what we're going to talk about. A lot of things coming up between now and then. SharePoint 2016, PowerShell 5, all kinds of crazy stuff. And so that will be good. I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, September 18th and 19th, I got roped into doing SharePoint-A-LoozA. So that's down in Branson, Missouri. That's Mark Rackley's baby. I've heard nothing but great things about that. And I got roped into do that this year. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Again, not sure what I'm going to be speaking about there, but I will be at SharePoint-A-LoozA. And you should go to SharePoint-A-LoozA.org and sign up. It'll be a good time. All right, folks. Closing down on 50 minutes, which is way too much of this stuff. Hopefully you've had me on 1.5 speed or double speed, and you've gotten through this and suffered less. But thank you for your time. Again, as always, I'm curious about your feedback, so hit me up on Twitter at Todd Klindt. Email me, todd.klindt@rackspace.com. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I can improve. I appreciate that. I will be here next week, and I will be joined by Jeffrey Hicks at jdhitsolutions.com, and we will be talking about PowerShell. It'll be a good time. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.